everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and I like to talk about books, and today I'm going to be doing the Summerween Book Tag. This book tag was originally created by Colleen from Little Ghost Creations, so I will link their original video down below so you can check that out. I've started to see a lot of other people start doing this tag, and I have gotten requests to this tag, so I was excited to jump in and talk about all things spooky as we prep for Summerween. There's a lot of questions, so let's just jump on in. So the first question is, what spooky reads are you most excited about that are in your TBR pile right now? And for that, I will probably have to say Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant. This is on my Summerween TBR. It is a book I talked about in my Summerween TBR video, and the response I've gotten about that book has been very surprising to me. Everyone is just saying they're so excited to see me read that book and to hear my thoughts about it, which could be either a really good thing or a bad thing. Either they think I'm gonna love it or hate it, but I'm pretty sure it's positive. People have been telling me they love that book. They're so excited to see my reaction for it. So now I am super excited to jump into that one, and I think I'm going to kick off my Summerween reading with that book just because it has gotten so hyped now and I'm really excited to check it out. This is a underwater story about like killer mermaids kind of, and there's this crew that goes down to explore the area. I don't really know a lot about it. I just know it's probably gonna feel claustrophobic, and apparently it's gonna be really spooky. The second question is, what's your favorite revenge novel? And I don't know if I've read a ton of revenge novels, but the first thing that came to mind for me was Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. I talk about this a lot because I love this book so much. It's a little novella. It's like 100 pages, super short, and I even recommend it for Summerween. So if you're still looking for something to squeeze in, I would highly recommend this novella. But this is a story about a group of friends who used to play with this mannequin together as they were kids. They just found it somewhere, they played with it, they did things with it, whatever. Then eventually they kind of get bored with it, they leave it be, they grow up, years go on. A couple summers later, they decide they want to pull him back out. They're gonna do a prank and they're gonna stage him up in a movie theater where one of their friends works, and it's gonna be so funny. They're gonna get in trouble for having that there. They just think it's gonna be so hilarious. But when they execute the prank, the mannequin ends up like getting up and walking out of the theater and may have potentially turned to life and may potentially be on a revenge mission to punish all of the kids for neglecting him over the years. So this one is more psychological. It is a little bit borderline of like, you don't know if this is really happening or if there's something else going on. And it's really fun and fast paced because, like I said, it's just 100 pages. So it is super snappy, super quick, and a really fun one to get through, which also reminds me The Only Good Indians is also a revenge story, which is a longer book. So if you like Stephen Graham Jones and you're looking for a little bit of a longer revenge story, there's also that, which is pretty good as well. The third question is, what is a horror or thriller book that you wish you could experience again for the first time? You would think you would answer with like your favorite thriller or like something that had a really good plot twist that you would want to experience again, but for me it would be Every Vow You Break by Peter Swanson, because I just read this just a couple months ago and I freaking loved it. I like gave it an immediate 5 stars. I hadn't heard many other people reading it, so I didn't really have any biased opinions. I was just excited to give it a try because I hadn't liked anything else from Peter Swanson, and so I thought, we'll just see what happens. And then I loved it. It was an immediate 5 star. I had such a good time with it. And then as the weeks progressed, I started seeing so many negative reviews. Like everybody I know hated that book and gave it like 1 or 2 stars. And so I kind of think it would be interesting to get to read it again for the first time and see, did I really like it? Or would I acknowledge all of the same issues that everyone else did? I don't know. I think I would probably have to have the knowledge of what to look out for in a reread. So I guess it wouldn't work for the first time again, but just something that's been on my mind. I thought it's been interesting how many people hated that book when I actually liked it, and I've never liked anything else from Peter Swanson. The fourth question says, sucks to suck. You were just given a handful of your least favorite candy, the one not even your siblings or friends will trade for. What candy is it, and what spooky book did you want to love that disappointed you? So for the candy question, I'm not really big on candy, to be honest. I kind of just like chocolate, and other candies don't really interest me that much, so I would have a lot of options, but probably something like like dots, like those are just not good. They're not a good candy. I don't know what the purpose of them is, but they're not needed in this world. And then a book that I wanted to love but that disappointed me would be Finlay Donovan is Killing It. I read this one recently. I'd heard great things about it. I thought it sounded up my alley. It sounded like a fun time. It's been compared to that show Dead to Me on Netflix, which I really loved. But as I read the book, I just didn't really care about the characters. I didn't really like Finlay Donovan as a character. I wasn't really interested in the story, and I ended up giving it like a 3-star rating. It was just kind of like, fine for me. It's gonna be a series now. I'm not gonna be continuing in the series most likely, but yeah, pretty much I just thought it would have been better as a show, kind of like Dead to Me was. I just didn't particularly care about the book. The 5th question says, time to put on your costume. If you could exist in one spooky novel, which would it be and who would your best friend be? For this one, I don't know if I'd want to exist in many spooky novels because I would be scared, but a kind of wholesome spooky novel that I would like to be in the world of and have a best friend in would be in the graphic novel Sheets and the follow-up Delicates, and my best friend would be Wendell the Ghost. This is a really cute graphic novel series by Brenna Thumler. Delicates just came out very recently and it was an outstanding sequel, very, very good. But I just love these so much. For one, if you just think about where you want to exist, I love the aesthetic of these. I just love the way the town looks. I love the artwork and aesthetic of this book. I just think that's a good place to be dropped into. And besides, who doesn't want to have a nice little wholesome ghost boy as your best friend? Question number 6 says, what's your favorite haunted house book and or television show? And for that, I have quite a few answers across books and television shows. For television shows, I'd have to say The Haunting of Hill House is like one of the best haunted house shows I have ever seen. It is so extraordinary, so good, has so many great other themes about just family built into the story, and it genuinely scared the crap out of me. Like, I don't typically get actually scared from jump scares and stuff on shows and movies, but that show genuinely freaked me out. And then for haunted house books, I would have to say like The Shining by Stephen King, Horrid by Katrina Leno, Mapping the Interior by Stephen Graham Jones. I just really like a good haunted house story, so I have quite a list of books I've enjoyed in that genre. It's pretty rare that I've read a haunted house story and not liked it, so generally I enjoy them. Question number 7 is the food question. You can only pick one from each of these categories, so would you rather have chocolate or sour candy, coffee or tea, and apple or pumpkin pie? And that is easy for me. I would rather have chocolate instead of sour candy, coffee instead of tea, and apple instead of pumpkin pie. Question number 8 says, show us your favorite book, The Witch or a Woman Who Gets Screwed Over by Society and the Patriarchy. And I just recently did a reading vlog where I read books about witches, and as you would have seen, it didn't go that great. I didn't really enjoy the books I read that much. When I was wanting to read books about witches, I wanted like spooky, creepy witch vibes, like dark forest, spells, like creepy factor, but a lot of them were more about the patriarchy and society and feminism and stuff. So if you like books like that, I would recommend the books I read in that video. So The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson and The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. I also read a memoir called Initiated by Amanda Yates Garcia, but I ended up DNFing that. If that is your style of story, all the power to you. Check out those books. I just didn't enjoy them as much. My favorite out of them would be The Year of the Witching though. That one did have good creepy vibes. The story was just a little bit all over the place and I didn't like the main character as much, so it wasn't my favorite thing I've ever read, but yeah. Witch stuff, surprisingly just not my thing. Question number 9 is, which book on your shelves or audiobook library has the scariest book cover? And for that, I don't know, so I'm going to have to go explore and see. After much deliberation, I'd probably have to say Wonderland. This is pretty creepy. It's like dark forest vibes, but in the shape of this face, and yeah, that's pretty creepy. Have not read this book yet, is on my radar, have not heard many reviews for it, don't know how creepy it really is, but it does have creepy forest vibes, which tends to freak me out, so maybe this one will be bumped up my radar a little bit. Question number 10 says, it's Summerween and it's hot outside. What books do you recommend that give off summer vibes? Think lakes, cabins, beaches, etc. etc. Whatever reminds you of summer. And for that, I would have to say one of my favorite horror books, The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. This is a story that takes place in a cabin in this like beautiful Canadian setting at this lake. It is a family on vacation. They're very isolated out in the middle of nowhere, and then this group of strangers comes to the cabin very threateningly, saying that the world is going to end unless the family lets them into the cabin, and then bad things happen. It is so creepy, such great suspense, but it also just has really good summer vibes, like summer vacation home vibes. It is just so good. I read this last summer, so it also fit in nicely with that timing. But yeah, that's like one of my first books that comes to mind when I think about summery horror thriller books. I think that one is a really good time. Question number 11 says, you and your friends are exploring a well-known haunted house. You get separated and suddenly you hear screams coming from somewhere upstairs. You run into the next room and find two of your friends. Which two fictional characters are they? Who do you want in this situation with you? These situational questions are always so hard for me because I don't really remember a ton of characters from the books that I read unless it's like a series and you spend a lot of time with them. They don't like stand out as distinct people to me in my memory often for books. And so I went through my Goodreads and I scrolled through my whole list of books and just tried to look at them and think, which characters would I want with me in this situation? Who would I want to help me in a tough spot? And I came up with absolutely nothing because every character I looked through from my horror and thriller books that has been in these situations is either too dumb to get me out of it and they will get me into more trouble, or too dangerous and they would end up causing me more harm than good. So I don't know. I can't think of any characters who would be helpful to me in this situation. Let me know down below if you have any ideas from any books that you've read, but I would just be there on my own and would just have to figure out how to get out of the situation myself, which I probably wouldn't even do any better myself anyways. Question number 10 says, trick or treat. Stephen King, H.P. Lovecraft, Mary Shelley, and Shirley Jackson are at your front door. Who do you give the best and biggest candy bar to? So out of this list of authors, I have read some from Stephen King and I have read from Shirley Jackson because I did read The Haunting of Hill House and I've read The Lottery Story. I don't know if I've read an H.P. Lovecraft story, and I haven't read Frankenstein, which I know Mary Shelley did. Not sure of anything else Mary Shelley did. But out of this list, I just feel like I probably would give the biggest candy bar to Shirley Jackson just because she seems a little threatening. Like I might be a little scared around her. Like she seems like she's got some creepy ideas. I don't know. I would just want to be on her good side. So I would give the best candy bar to Shirley Jackson. And then question number 13, the last question, is what is your favorite spooky book to movie adaptation where both of them are good? So for that, I have two answers. One of them is more of a thriller and one is more of a horror. So the thriller adaptation that I really enjoy is Gone Girl. Just such a classic, such a staple in the thriller genre. The book was so good. It just made me love reading so much. It's probably the book that like really got me into thrillers. And then the movie also so amazing. Loved the casting, loved the acting. Could rewatch that movie a million times. It's so good. And then on the horror side of things, I would have to say The Shining by Stephen King. I loved that book when I read it last year or earlier this year. I don't remember if it was this year or last year, but whenever I read it, I loved that book so much, had so much fun with it. And I think the movie adaptation is also done very well, especially with it being an older adaptation. I still really enjoy the movie, and it's just got a really good classic horror movie vibe to it that I really enjoy. So that is it for all of my answers to all the questions for the Summerween Book Tag. I had so much fun going through all the questions, and I'm so excited to get started with Summerween. I have just been so eager to jump back into thriller and horror books, so I just have good feelings about this readathon. I think this is gonna go very well. I have high hopes. Let me know down below if you're participating in Summerween, and then let me know your answers to any of these questions, especially which characters you would want in a haunted house with you, because I truly just can't think of anyone who would be useful. But that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!